Does your heart race when you picture the instant everything apparently ends? That tightness in your chest is not just fear of the unknown. It's also longing for something the mind can't recall, but the soul recognizes. Panache Desai stood on that invisible border when his physical body fell silent for a few seconds, and he witnessed what he describes as an embrace of light so dense that nothing, not even panic, could survive inside it. Anyone who sees the author of Soul Signature speaking on international stages today might not know that, as a child, he preferred listening to silence over the schoolyard soccer chatter. He spoke little, but felt deeply. Decades later, that sensitivity allowed him to walk a corridor of light where no clock existed, only the certainty that love is origin, journey, and destination. In Desai's account, there is no dark tunnel, no tribunal, no string of questions about sins. There is a softness like the feeling of warm water surrounding the body after an exhausting day. He says he noticed his heart had stopped, but at the same time had expanded beyond his chest, as if each missing beat were replaced by a cosmic pulse. The first surprise was realizing he wasn't alone. A silent presence, older than any divine name, upheld everything. Imagine waking from a vivid dream only to discover the waking world is actually the dream. This is how he described the moment he understood that dying isn't falling into nothingness, but flinging open the door to the true home. Despite the grandeur of these visions, Desai insists that proof of the soul's continuity needn't arrive via cardiac arrest. Sometimes it shows up as a stubborn coincidence, the smell of bread evoking a late grandmother's kitchen, or a déjà vu so precise it seems to tear the seam of time. He also emphasizes that meeting this source of all being required no spiritual resume, no mantras, no parade of good deeds, just being alive until he wasn't. If the passage involves absolute welcome, why waste energy on endless guilt or fear of failure? That provocation holds the promise of this video, to show, through Desai's testimony, that daily life becomes lighter when we accept that love is the underground current of all things. While you wait for the bus, haggle over a budget, or cook dinner, small flashes of this love can appear. In the song that plays on the radio, precisely when you need courage, in a stranger's casual advice that calms your mind, or in the comforting silence that arrives, uninvited in the middle of the night. Desai explains that on the brink of death, he felt the memory of every existence open before him, like a book without pages. Each experience a suspended hologram, simultaneous, accessible. There was no shame, only understanding. He saw that error isn't an ugly scar, but a necessary sketch for a larger drawing. Practically speaking, when you accept pain as a didactic ally, the energy once spent on escape converts into a resource for transforming reality. Recall a time you faced a great loss, a breakup, a failed exam, and months later realized that rupture cleared a path for something better. The soul's logic follows that pattern. First, it shakes, then it clarifies. Knowing this doesn't erase suffering, but it dissolves the dread that amplifies it. One conference afternoon, Desai said that while still in his expanded state, he tried to ask about the mistakes he'd made in life. Before he could finish the thought, he saw the answer was always the same. Everything is being used for your flourishing. That doesn't mean patting your errors on the back. It means understanding them as part of a pedagogical flow. Toxic guilt paralyzes. Loving responsibility propels. It's like driving an unfamiliar road. Missing a turn doesn't cancel the destination. It just forces a route recalculation. As you listen, notice how many times today you berated yourself over trivial details, a message left unanswered, a wording slip, and ask whether it's worth carrying that weight when even forgetfulness can serve as a reminder to tend better to your bonds. The total absence of fear Desai experienced isn't reserved for near-death travelers. It's a latent seed in every human being. It sprouts whenever we choose to trust, even without evidence, that there's purpose in the road's unexpected curves. It can emerge in a hospital waiting room when someone squeezes your hand and says everything will pass, in gridlocked traffic when the right song plays and you breathe instead of honking, or in a virtual conversation like this one, arriving at the exact moment to soothe late-night anxiety. If this content resonates with your journey, consider hitting subscribe. A simple gesture ensures that whenever a new spiritual insight appears here, you'll get the reminder before routine swallows your intention to seek deeper answers. Desai doesn't romanticize the passage. He acknowledges the pain of those who stay and the fear of those who go, but insists both soften when we realize the structure of reality is compassion. Death, he says, steals no one from us. It merely reveals that presence has changed form. You no longer see the hug, yet feel warmth on your neck during prayer. You don't hear the absent friend's laugh, yet stumble upon their favorite song when you need to smile. These small signs, closely observed, form a mosaic of evidence that separation is really a convenient illusion, making earthly life seem fully real. Wondering how to cultivate this perception without dodging daily duties? Desai suggests a simple exercise. Upon waking, before touching your phone, close your eyes for a few deep breaths and ask, "Where does love want to take me today?" Don't demand specific results, just offer curiosity. Throughout the day, pay attention to unexpected encounters, sudden ideas, memories that resurface unbidden. These clues form a personalized map pointing to the same source he found beyond the heartbeat. Watch for coincidences. There, he says, the soul's favorite language. If your heart has caught even a spark of hope so far, leave a comment about any loving presence you felt during critical moments. Your story might become a beacon for someone else, silently contemplating the mystery of the final departure. After all, we're rails on an invisible railway. Every shared experience links cars that once seemed distant, creating an unbroken line between the material world and the spiritual dimension. Ever imagined carrying in your chest memories that don't fit on your birth certificate? Panache Desai swears the soul does exactly that. It archives impressions with a cosmic librarian's precision, minus the dust of paper records. He says he saw scenes from other eras playing simultaneously, like overlapping screens in a cinema without walls. In that dive, he realized traumas, talents, even quirks are loose threads from earlier existences sewn into the fabric of your current life. That instant affinity for someone you met yesterday could be an old reunion in disguise. And that irrational fear of heights, despite never falling, might be a vibrational memory begging for reconciliation. Consider the woman who began speaking perfect French after a stroke, having never studied the language. To Desai, that's no isolated miracle. It's the needle of time piercing linear weave and letting scraps escape from a life the brain never catalogued, but the soul never forgot. According to him, the interconnection of all journeys turns every casual meeting into a private lesson. Holding the elevator door for a stranger might fulfill a promise made centuries ago. The person who seemed a villain but became a loyal partner? Maybe you both agreed before birth to swap roles to refine character. This view stretches tolerance. The driver who cuts you off isn't a threat. He's a mirror reminding you impatience can live in anyone. Recognize this web of bonds and anger cools. Resentment wilts, forgiveness becomes logical. It's not passive resignation, but spiritual intelligence. Seeing life as a shared lab where everyone works on the same experiment called evolution. Desai stresses that the key to these records isn't a secret technique, but acceptance. A simple word, often misunderstood. Acceptance doesn't confuse injustice with virtue or applaud suffering. Acceptance is acknowledging what is without surrendering the right to change it. Think of the young woman who receives a grave diagnosis. She could slip into despair, yet chooses to breathe deeply, explore therapies, adapt her routine with discipline. She doesn't deny pain. She welcomes it as a stern teacher whose lesson might save lives beyond her own. Acceptance is a dance step. First, the chest opens, then the body spins differently. When we resist, the universe repeats the lesson until we grasp it. When we yield with courage, the obstacle's matter turns into a springboard. Stories like the athlete who lost a leg and became a paracycling champion illustrate this move. He says that at the accident's moment, he saw no sense at all. But months later, he asked himself, what if I use what's left instead of mourning what's gone? That simple question triggered a pivot. In his out-of-body experience, Desai saw that every brave choice activates invisible forces ready to collaborate. It's as if the universe whispers, "Show your willingness, and I'll show you backstage." Acceptance, then, isn't a downward curve. It's a launch ramp. The crucial detail is the quality of surrender, not dropping the reins out of apathy, but out of trust that a greater direction exists. Once we grasp this, the hunt for purpose stops being a treasure chase out of reach. Desai describes earthly life as a stage for revealing the shine we already possess. Overcoming adversity polishes the lamp. It doesn't create light from nothing. Note the seed metaphor. It contains the entire tree, yet must push through dark soil, face stones, and shove heavy earth before touching the sun. Likewise, each setback forces dense layers to clear so essence can surface. No experience is wasted. Even the boredom of a line can train patience that may avert a bigger mistake later. This perspective revolutionizes our relationship with everyday frustrations, turning a rainy Monday into an opportunity to exercise resilience rather than divine punishment. In the midst of this journey, Desai recounts meeting a presence that condensed everything religions call divine, yet without labels or dogma. He saw no human form, heard no booming voice. Instead, he felt a vibration so welcoming that any comparison with earthly love would be an understatement. The core message was clear as water. You are already whole, you just forgot. This revelation dismantles the belief that we must pile up merits to deserve cosmic affection. When we remember that the source is inclusive love, we stop flogging ourselves for our flaws and, instead, take on a gentle responsibility. Fix what we can, learn from the rest, and keep walking. Trading perfectionism's rigidity for the curiosity of someone analyzing an experiment in progress is liberating. If something comes out crooked, adjust the mold and print again. No drama. Desai often closes his talks by asking people to practice a simple gesture during the week. Place one hand over the heart for 3 breaths, close the eyes, and ask, "In what area of my life am I still swimming against the current?" On the exhale, hand that point over to the greater intelligence, promising to act when guidance arises. The exercise seems ordinary, but repetition creates micro-cracks in the armor of over-control, letting intuition, the soul's native language, begin whispering alternate routes. Don't be surprised if, after a few mornings, sudden ideas appear in the shower or while doing dishes. Signs don't always arrive under a spotlight. Sometimes they wear simplicity to see whether we're paying attention. If this content is lighting dark corners of your doubts, drop a like right now. That modest gesture amplifies the reach of the message, helping those still walking around with unnecessary fear. And if you notice a relative or friend anxious about sudden changes, share the video. You might be the bridge that leads them to a lighter view of life. In fact, write in the comments which situation you've decided to accept, no matter how challenging it seems. In future episodes, we can turn viewers' stories into concrete examples of soul-guided overcoming, and yours might appear here, inspiring other restless hearts. Amid commitments, remember this image. We're travelers carrying backpacks of ancient experiences, walking a road that, viewed from above, sketches a perfect constellation. Each step, stumble or leap, lights a star along that path. The moment you embrace what is, you start to see the outline of your purpose, to shine without fear. Knowing the silence between notes is also part of the music. When Panache Desai began breathing in his body again, he heard the cardio monitors beep like the distant echo of a Tibetan bell, reminding him constantly that life keeps orbiting between 2 silences, the before and the after. Lying in the hospital bed, he realized he'd brought back something more valuable than spectacular visions. A calm certainty that death is not demolition, but a change of address. That understanding made him look at every face, even the grumpiest, and see a sparkle behind the mask. If we all carry sparks from the same fire, the logic changes. Competition turns into conversation. Haste turns into presence. And haste, by the way, is the first habit he invites us to question. How many times, today alone, did you frantically refresh your feed, seeking a sense of control? What if, instead of that automatic reflex, there were a second of pause to feel your pulse and remember that, In the end, essence doesn't need Wi-Fi to communicate. Desai likes to say, the divine doesn't shine only in big epiphanies. It hides in seemingly banal cracks. It's the laugh that breaks out in the middle of a fight, dissolving tension for no reason. It's the traffic light's yellow that stays on a few seconds longer, preventing two cars from colliding. It's the simple text, "Miss you," sent at the exact minute loneliness nearly overflows. These miniature miracles form the mosaic he saw on the other side. The universe's vast machinery is made of tiny gestures. That's why he insists spirituality needs no grand rituals, just focused attention. Attention, here, is love in the shape of a gaze. You offer the world a kind of hug when you truly listen to the person beside you instead of mentally replying to an email that hasn't even arrived. The notion of the soul's immortality, far from being an escape from earthly responsibility, supercharged Desai's thirst for living. He left the hospital determined to prove that if eternal life exists, every minute on the clock deserves highest honor. He began with small pleasures, inhaling tea's aroma before the first sip, silently thanking the water flowing from the tap, praising the stranger who tended the park's flowers. Quickly, he noticed reality responding at the same frequency. Invitations appeared, projects advanced, old pains lost their dramatic pull. Vibration, he says, is invisible currency. What you emit returns with interest. Not superstition, subtle physics. Recall the last day you woke inspired. Even the coffee tasted better, ideas flowed effortlessly, traffic felt less hostile. That domino effect arises because your inner state colors the lens through which you see the outer world. At the journey's most delicate stage, when the line between worlds thinned to silk, Desai says he met an assembly of loving consciousnesses, a kind of support team that cheered his courage to return and share. They gave no orders or detailed plans. They simply breathed encouragement, as if saying, "Carry the good news. Each person will do their part." He understood that, on this side, we can join that welcome committee too. Just extend kindness without expecting applause. Listen without judging. Remember, everyone fights battles invisible in the feed. Rather than lament that the world is harsh, we can choose to be a soft point along someone's route. Simple, yet transformative, it creates the chain reaction of awakening he speaks of. A state where the soul remembers its origin and the ego stops owning the narrative, becoming an attentive co-pilot. Such awakening comes in layers. First, an intellectual click. Maybe there's something beyond. Next, an emotional shiver. I feel there is. Finally, a practical commitment. I'll live as though there is. Desai stresses the last step makes the difference. Believing without acting is like planning a trip but never leaving home. Acting can be as simple as deciding to forgive, postponing harsh self-judgment, calling someone who's waited months to hear from you. Each of these acts, he says, lights a small lamp on humanity's great map. Seen from above, Earth becomes a network of pulsing light, and you realize no gesture is irrelevant when the soul joins the process. It's impossible to talk about awakening without touching the fear of failure. Desai admits that even after his transcendental experience, there are days he feels self-criticism sharpening its claws. The difference now is he recognizes the voice and smiles before it terrifies him. "Hey, I know you. You want to protect me but end up limiting me. Thanks for the concern. You can rest." That inner conversation dismantles self-punishment's power. You can try it now. When the thought, "I'm not good enough," arises, mentally reply, "Just another rehearsal before opening night." The ego hates humor, and laughter opens cracks where light can enter. If at any point in this video something sparked inside you, your chest expanding half a centimeter, consider turning that spark into concrete action. Share Panache Desai's story with someone trembling with fear of the word end. Drop in the comments the most curious sign you've ever received from the invisible, however small. Your words might cross continents and land on someone's phone just as they're about to give up. And of course, if you'd like gentle reminders that nothing ends where the eye sees, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Each week here brings a new piece of that luminous puzzle linking the material world to the spiritual. We'll end with an image to accompany your day. Picture life as a long hallway lined with windows. Each time you choose love over fear, a window swings open on its own, letting in a fresh breeze of expanded reality. Keep walking. When you reach the hallway's end, whenever that is, you'll discover there is no exit door, only an infinite sun-bathed balcony where loved ones await with quiet smiles, ready to show you that everything in the end was a beginning. Until then, let curiosity be your compass, affection your bridge, and consciousness, tireless traveler, remind you every day that each breath is an invitation to shine in the unique way only you can.